Who made God? It's a valid question and one that's been discussed for millennia. Theists believe that the best cause is a supernatural divine creator. But since everything we see has a beginning, then it brings us back to the question, if God is the cause of everything, then who made God? Well, in this video, we're going to answer that question from a Christian perspective by looking at the biblical text and by looking at some philosophy. Are you familiar with the philosophical argument that goes, whatever begins to exist requires a cause? Think about it. Everything we see around us requires a cause. The table that I'm resting on has a cause. Designer, furniture maker. I am the cause of physical intimacy, just like all humans are. Cars are made in a factory. Everything we see, there's a cause. So a plant, is because somebody planted a seed. That seed germinated and grew into a plant or tree, etc. Everything we see around us requires a cause. But the question is, why do theists, those who believe in God, think that the best explanation for the cause of the universe and everything in it is a supreme, divine, supernatural creator who is outside of time and space and matter, and therefore is not subject to cause and effect? One of the key concepts that runs throughout the Bible is the concept of eternity. God is consistently described as being eternal, everlasting, having no beginning, no end, the Alpha and the Omega. Let's look at just a few verses that affirms God's eternality. 1 Timothy 1:17 says, "Now to the King eternal, immortal, invisible, the only God, be honor and glory forever and ever. Amen." Psalm 93 verse 2 says, "Your throne was established long ago. You are from all eternity." Habakkuk verse 1:12 says, "Lord, are you not from everlasting? My God, my Holy One, you will never die." And Revelation 22:13 says, "I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning of the end." So these verses show that God is consistently described as being eternal and everlasting. Theologians have discussed and debated the nature of God's eternality from different perspectives. One of these perspectives is called aseity, which basically means God does not have a cause. He is the uncaused cause. In other words, God does not depend on anything at all for his existence. He is the source of all existence. The physical world is subject to cause and effect, and these causes can be traced back, but we cannot have an infinite number of causes. At some point, the causes have to be uncaused. You cannot have an infinite regress of cause and effect. That's why belief in a supreme, supernatural creator who designed and planned everything in it makes the most sense. To go deeper into this topic, we need to look at the Kalam cosmological argument. The original premises were put forward by the 12th century Muslim Persian philosopher Al-Ghazali, which were later tweaked and popularized by the philosopher Dr. William Lane Craig. Here is the paraphrased argument. Premise 1. Everything that begins to exist has a cause for its existence. Premise 2. The universe began to exist. Premise 3. Therefore, the universe has a cause for its existence. Premise 4. The laws of physics and scientific explanations themselves are part of the universe, making it impossible for science to provide a definitive explanation for the universe's origin. And premise 5, or the conclusion, therefore, the cause must be God. I expect most people would agree with the first three premises, that everything that begins to exist requires a cause, that the universe began to exist, and therefore the universe requires a cause. We may not know what that cause is, or we may disagree on what the cause is, but I think most people would agree with the first three premises. It's premises 4 and 5, of course, that will bring the most discussion and debate and even disagreement. There are those in the scientific community who still put forward the idea that the universe could be an eternal cyclical universe, meaning that the universe goes through a series of big bangs or expansions and then crunches. So expands, and then at some point it will crunch back in on itself, which will then lead to another bang and expansion, and then it will come back into itself to a crunch. However, most scientists today just dismiss this because the evidence points to a one-time beginning, what we call the Big Bang. The only difference is that we know who banged it. So moving on to premise 5, the conclusion, therefore God is the cause of everything, I think this is actually plausible. I mean, there are other possibilities, but this is a very plausible idea. Think about it. Everything had to begin at some point. We can go right back to that singularity, which is when that very first universe began. Right? All the data, if you extrapolate all the data and take it back in time, it all points to a finite point in time. But what caused that? Most scientists dismiss the idea of an eternal cyclic universe, which leads to the conclusion that God, an all-powerful creator being outside of time, space, and matter, who is intelligent and personal to decide to make it, is makes the most sense. In conclusion, although we may never understand God's eternity and God's everlasting nature, it's a key thought throughout the Bible. God is not a created being. He is the creator, the source of all existence. As Psalm 90 says, "Before the mountains were born, or you brought forth the whole world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God." So that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to share the video, like the video, and comment down below, and hit that notification bell for any future posts. And remember, faith is not fairy tales, and God is real.